In this next segment, we're going to look at a couple of examples. One was a game that Magnus had against Anish Giri, maybe with mixed memories, but also that game had a huge impact on one of my games later on, reaching almost the exact same endgame. We're also going to talk about how you can tire out your opponent and how some psychological aspects come into play in examples like these.
Yeah, for sure. The first game is really just to set up the second, and as you said, mixed memories indeed. I was gonna correct you there and say that I have only poor memories, but now that I think about it, some parts of the game was actually nice. So,
yeah. And in games like that, you got to roll with the punches. You got to take the bad with the good. Yeah. But we'll join you in a moment for those examples. So in this next game, Magnus had the white pieces against Anish Giri, and there were some really interesting moments in this game. Magnus, what are your memories in general of this encounter?
Not very good, I have to say. I'd had a pretty good tournament up till then. I guess I had +2. I had played decent chess, and after this game, my tournament really got off the rails, and then I guess I won a couple of games at the end and made +3 in second place, but So was way ahead of me. Up to some point I did play decently, and I guess we'll see the point of why we're showing this game later. Anyway, here he made a good decision, going for bishop a3, forcing the exchange of bishops. I went f4, which I wasn't particularly happy about.
So that was a good decision for black, just to weaken your central pawns, I guess.
Yeah. DC, BC. And here he just made a decision which made a grinder like me really, really happy to take on f3. Because I was kind of worried about my long-term prospects with a pawn on f4. True, if I can drive his king away, I might have some attacking prospects, but I think bishop f3 was just a little bit too safe.
Do you think it was impatience on his part, just swapping the pieces, hoping to...
Yeah, I talked to him after the game. He just said he couldn't believe that he would have problems in the ending at all. But now at least I have a target. I immediately go for it. And we won't dwell too much on the next phase. I did some things really well here. He also made a few mistakes. But generally we got to this kind of position, which was where he has this optically decent knight on d4, but in reality he cannot do much, as the bishop is much stronger.
If he ever takes on c6, he'll walk into a bunch of pins.
Yeah, and this king h2 was actually really, really nice Zugswang. He just has no moves here. Anyway, we went along. I made some inaccurate moves. Like here, I thought I was winning immediately. Then he found some counterplay. Maybe you should have tried bishop rook h6, but still, it's very tough. Here, here I missed mate, unfortunately. I thought. Yeah, I don't know what I thought. I calculated a lot, and then I just missed something very simple. This has been, of course, been written about a lot, so I won't go into too many details. But
it's not necessarily about we all miss things, right? And here's a checkmate. But in general, I guess it's been a long game.
But I mean, I had plenty of time as well, so it was essentially pretty unforgivable not to. I mean, I played bishop f7 immediately, which is stupid. I thought I was winning, and then here I realized that my pieces are just way too exposed, so I can't actually keep all of them. For instance, rook h6, rook h6, and then I mean, bishop c4 was the only way to win, but this wasn't so easy.
Some really nice skewers, but not easy or not human.
I still should have found it, but I was not in a good mindset at this point. Mm-hmm. Which you should be, but...
Yeah. I mean, you're still on the pressing side, so there's something to be confident about, but how aware were you that you'd already missed?
No, I knew that. Yeah, I obviously understood that I was winning earlier. And we just really wanted to show this ending. I moved around quite a bit. I didn't make much happen. In these positions, it's actually kind of better to have a knight because it protects the king better. It's still a draw, but there are much more chances. Here, there's also the problem that bishop and h-pawn against king can become relevant, like in the game here.
And he was able to hold the draw. Yeah, actually, that's really interesting. I mean, knights with pawns are just on one side of the board, they guard everything, but also on the dart squares, you were always open to checks.
Yeah.
In the game. And
no, this was frustrating. I lost to Rapport the next day, and then the wheels were off. But anyway,
sorry to bring back bad memories.
Anyway, let's have a look at some better memories from this construction.
From this endgame, and just before we move away from this game, if we do backtrack a while, then we see this configuration with white's king, white's pawns, the rook and bishop, and it's funny, this game took place in 2017, and just, I think it was around 6 months later, I had almost an identical position. So we'll see, we'll show you that in a moment. So this is from one of my own games. I had the white pieces. It was in the first round of a British Championship in 2017, and I was the top seed. I was playing someone a lot lower rated, but I had struggled. And the similarities between this game and the game that Magnus showed against Anish Giri, they were startling. I'd watched that game just a few months previously, and somehow we ended up in the exact same endgame. But first of all, before we got there, this is the position. There are some tactical tricks. I had white lined up on the 7th rank, but that's only relevant because my pawn is about to drop. I'm about to get distracted by this black pawn. He pushed forward. I thought it was too dangerous to leave alive that black pawn, so I took it. And a bit of a practical mistake here. Magnus, we've discussed this. Here, it's not clear whether he missed something or whether he was trying to set me a trap, but I think he made a very poor practical decision at this point. He can take my pawn in 2 different ways, and big difference.
So if he'd taken with the rook on f6, do you think you would have had any real chances of winning the game?
No. So, for example, if I bring my rook back, the difference here, the key difference is that the black queen can defend. Black queen can go to f6 or d4, defend on the diagonal. And I mean, I would like to think I would be able to set a trap later on at some point, but objectively, it's just too symmetrical, right? Just looks like a dead draw.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you would have to try and bring the bishop to e4, but I think your king is just too exposed.
Yeah, there'll always be some problems. I can hide here maybe, but it doesn't feel like it should be enough. And this was the simple way to do it, taking this pawn with this rook. But there was a key difference after he took with the other rook. Suddenly we have a very forcing variation, and this is where calculation, of course, comes into play. But I realign on the 7th rank, and this was his trick. Obviously, he can't hold his rooks. This just wins for white. The difference is now that this black rook gets in the way, the black queen can't defend, and therefore he had set a trap for me. And now we head into the endgame.
Yeah, now the fun starts.
Now the fun starts. The famous endgame from Carlsen Giri. So here, actually, yeah, I think my opponent maybe thought he tricked me. He thought he was winning here. He's about to start checking and doing some nasty things to my king, but I can sacrifice my queen. And after the rook recaptures, now I break through on the 7th rank. And yeah, if we fast forward through the next few moves, I take this pawn. This coming situation, especially in a few moves' time when we see an exchange of rooks, black is never better, right? Black can never, ever win this. It's slightly different from your game because the H pawn is still alive, but...
Yeah, you can put the white rook on f4, take away the bishop from the board, and it's an easy draw.
That's true. If white's rook comes back, it's a fortress.
Or not only on f4, but that's the easiest.
You can put it on other squares. Yeah, it's just a fortress. So my opponent, rather than going for a position where he was stable, safe, he set me one trap, but once I got through the trap, he now ends up in a, well, difficult defense, at least. It should be a draw, of course, as we saw in your game against Giri, but there is some work to be done. And for an endgame grinder like me, this is perfect. I prefer, actually, here for black's pawn to be on the board, because then I have 50 moves to win it. I tire my opponent out.
And then once he loses it, it's going to be more difficult psychologically to defend.
Yeah, Giri started without this pawn, right? And for him, he knew.
Yeah, and for him, it was a huge win just getting into instead of getting mated, frankly, or ground down in a lost ending. So
yeah, so that's the psychological part of tiring out the opponent, making them kind of switch. And yeah, it's always better for your opponent if they survive, they're happy, they're riding a high, rather than my opponent who could have got out of this game probably without any trouble with a draw. It's dead now defending. And okay, we'll fast forward the next few moves. Pretty much nothing happens for the next 30, 40 moves. And here, if we fast forward, I mean, this is actually nearly 40 moves later, and only one piece has changed squares. Yeah. But finally, there is a plan to go and win this pawn. And okay, he moved back. I gave a check. I gave another check. It's nice to set traps. King h6, rook h7 mate. But he went the other way, and this is where I could tell visibly he was getting tired. My opponent, unlike Giri, he was a bit older. I could tell he was already struggling psychologically. This was maybe in the 6th, 7th hour of play. And now he made a mistake, or at least it doesn't change the objective evaluation, but at least now this pawn will drop. Rather than maybe harassing my bishop from the side, he came into e3. He should keep it on c4, where now, for example, after some checks, he can always put pressure on two pieces simultaneously.
Nice geometry there.
Yeah, really nice geometry. And actually, it's a fine line for black to tread, but he can always kind of keep this construction alive in order to stop me taking on h5. But
queen is pretty strong.
Queens are very strong. But the queen is outnumbered. And
this is an instructive mistake. It's an easy mistake to make because you want to put the queen close to the bishop, attack it, but now there are no checks.
No checks, yeah. He needs the queen back here on the second rank maybe to give checks, but it just takes too long, and now this pawn drops. And now we reach the identical endgame that you had. I also need to mention 50 move rule was about to elapse. I think I took this pawn on move 48, 49, so extra psychological blow. He was actually checking the score sheet.
Took it on 46.
Took it on 46, sorry. Yeah, I've had circumstances where I took it just before my opponent's 50th move, or I made a capture or pushed the pawn. But here, taking the pawn, it's not just the fact that by this point I've made big progress, it's just visibly he looked devastated, and the game starts afresh. Yeah. And you mentioned
he may not even have understood that that the position was just a draw here.
Yeah. And there are some situations we should mention that white can win. For example, if the black king gets cut off. For example, how to arrange this, say black moves. And okay, this takes a bit of help, but say black just makes some random moves. If the king gets cut off too far away from the pawns, then maybe white can start running, and big winning chances. But here it's all about psychologically recovering, and he wasn't able to do that. He tried to attack, but no checks. And already here, once he put his king on this square, I could tell he was self-destructing. He was tired, and I just thought, okay, it's time to set one final trap, and he fell straight into it. And this move still should be drawing. I would have played around for 40 moves or so, tired him out, waited for him to kind of get a bit emotional about the game maybe, and then push the pawn, and then maybe push g4 or h5. But instead he walked right into the mating net, and now nothing to do. Rook h7 comes, and I mean, it's remarkable similarities, the exact same endgame just 6 months after yours. But I think without you having played your game, I wouldn't have been as hopeful about mine. I mean, I knew it was a draw, of course, but just the fact he had a pawn, just the fact there was something to aim for, made a whole world of difference.
I've had a lot of positions like this in Blitz as well, and you always like having the two minor pieces because there are always these little tricks you have to look out for when you have these weak pawns. How did your opponent react after the game?
I mean, he walked straight out of the hall. I mean, he actually laughed when I played Rook f7 and started shaking his head. I mean, I think he was pretty exhausted at the time. He just kind of laughed, shrugged his shoulders, but then went straight out.
Yeah.
So
it's understandable.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he thought there was some stalemate. We should mention black does have one check, but it is blocked by white's bishop, and he'll have to give up the queen to prevent mate. And I ended up joint first in this tournament. I didn't quite win it overall, but often these long grinds, they actually help you get into a tournament, right? Round one, I'm glad I played this game because I played a lot better having warmed up.
It's funny, though, that often you play a bad game in the first round, and it's just what you need. Like, for me as well, a lot of my best tournaments, I've played bad game in the first round, and that's just given me, the little push I need to do better.
Yeah, so some players, they go for shorter games, right, just because they think they'll save energy, but often you need to get your eye in. You need to get in the zone.
I'll just show quickly. It doesn't matter in the slightest, but I think you don't even have to give up the bishop for the queen here. I think you can just get the rook for the queen. So like queen h8, you can go rook c7, putting him in yeah. So queen g8 seems to be the only move, and then rook c6 to g6. That's a bit too sadistic.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look for stalemates for black. There's no way.
Yeah. So.
If this was an online game, maybe you pre-move and some stalemate by accident, but it's over the board.
It's not
decisive. So, yeah, that's one way. I was lucky to be able to use pattern recognition here to win, but that's one way. Tire out your opponents. That's how you can win some games.